There's a composting method that finishes in 14 days, not months, days. 2 weeks from kitchen scraps to finished compost, 2 weeks from waste to the richest soil amendment you have ever seen. The compost from this method is different. It is darker, finer. It smells like a forest floor after rain. It crumbles in your hands like chocolate cake. Plants grown in it explode with growth that fertilizer cannot match. This compost is sterile. The process kills weed seeds that would survive normal composting. It destroys plant diseases that would spread through your garden. It eliminates pathogens that make raw manure dangerous. What emerges is pure fertility, life without contamination, energy without risk. This method requires no special equipment, no tumbler, no bins, no activators, no accelerators, no products of any kind. It requires a pile, a pitchfork, and knowledge. Knowledge that the Amish have used for 300 years. Knowledge that their farms depend upon. Knowledge that allows them to grow food without buying fertilizer, without purchasing soil amendments, without ever setting foot in a garden center. The Amish do not buy fertility. They make it in 14 days. And somehow, in a world where garden centers sell composting equipment that produces results in 6 to 12 months, almost no one teaches this method. The fertilizer industry sells $200 billion per year. The composting equipment industry sells $2 billion per year. Together, they have ensured that the fastest, most effective composting method remains hidden from the people who need it most. Today, we are opening the file on the 14-day composting secret, the method that makes slow composting obsolete, the technique that transforms waste into wealth in 2 weeks, and the industries that profit from you never learning it. If this matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. The file is open. In 1972, a researcher at the University of California, Berkeley was studying decomposition. His name was Dr. Robert Robb. He was a plant pathologist, interested in how composting destroyed plant diseases. He needed compost for his experiments, lots of it, fast. The conventional composting wisdom said to pile organic matter and wait. Turn it occasionally. Add water if dry. Harvest in 6 to 12 months. Dr. Robbe did not have 6 to 12 months. He had experiments to run. He began studying what made decomposition fast or slow. He measured temperatures inside compost piles. He tracked bacterial populations. He experimented with different ratios of materials. What he discovered contradicted everything gardeners believed about composting. Speed was not about waiting. Speed was about management. A pile that was managed correctly decomposed in a fraction of the time of a pile that was ignored. Not slightly faster, dramatically faster. Dr. Rabe developed a protocol, specific ratios of materials, specific pile dimensions, specific turning schedules, specific moisture levels. Following this protocol, his research team produced finished compost in 14 to 21 days, every time, reliably. The method worked. He called it the Berkeley method. But when he investigated the history, he discovered something surprising. The method was not new. It was not his invention. Farmers had been using these techniques for centuries. The Amish communities of Pennsylvania had passed this knowledge through generations. German immigrant farmers had brought it from Europe. Chinese agricultural texts documented similar methods thousands of years ago. Dr. Rabe had not invented the Berkeley method. He had rediscovered what industrial agriculture had buried. The science explains why 14 days is possible. Composting is decomposition. Microorganisms, primarily bacteria and fungi, break down organic matter into simpler compounds. The finished product is humus, the dark stable material that makes soil fertile. In a neglected pile, decomposition happens slowly. Bacteria work at the surface where oxygen is available. The interior becomes anaerobic, oxygen depleted, and decomposition stalls. The pile sits for months, only partially breaking down. The Berkeley method changes this equation. The first principle is the carbon to nitrogen ratio. Bacteria need both carbon and nitrogen to function. Carbon provides energy. Nitrogen provides protein for growth. The ideal ratio is approximately 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen by weight. Too much carbon and bacteria starve for nitrogen. Decomposition slows to a crawl. Too much nitrogen and bacteria consume it all quickly, then die off. The pile becomes slimy and smelly. At the optimal ratio, bacteria multiply explosively. Their population doubles every few hours. Their metabolic activity generates heat. The pile becomes a biological furnace. The second principle is oxygen supply. Aerobic bacteria, the ones that decompose efficiently, need oxygen. In a static pile, oxygen penetrates only a few inches. The interior becomes anaerobic, dominated by slow-acting bacteria that produce foul odors. The Berkeley method provides oxygen through turning, frequent turning. The pile is turned every second day, sometimes daily in the active phase. Each turn moves interior material to the exterior and exterior material to the interior. Every particle spends time in the oxygen-rich zone. Aerobic decomposition continues throughout the entire mass. The third principle is moisture. Bacteria need water to live and metabolize. A dry pile is a dormant pile. but excess water fills air spaces and creates anaerobic conditions. The ideal moisture level is 50 to 60%. The pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge. Squeeze a handful and a drop or two of water should emerge. The fourth principle is particle size. Smaller particles have more surface area. More surface area means more contact between bacteria and organic matter. More contact means faster decomposition. The Berkeley method calls for chopping or shredding materials before adding them to the pile. Leaves are shredded, stalks are chopped, large pieces are broken down. The fifth principle is pile size. Too small, and the pile cannot generate or retain enough heat. Too large, and oxygen cannot penetrate even with turning. The ideal pile is approximately 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. 1 cubic yard, large enough to heat, small enough to turn. The sixth principle is the turning schedule. This is where the Berkeley method differs most dramatically from conventional composting. Day 1, build the pile. Day 4, first turn. Day 6, second turn. Day 8, third turn. Day 10, fourth turn. Day 12, fifth turn. Day 14, sixth turn. Compost is finished. Every second day, the pile is turned completely. Interior becomes exterior. Wet spots mix with dry spots. Fresh oxygen reaches all parts. The turning schedule maintains aerobic conditions throughout the process. Bacteria never run out of oxygen. Decomposition never stalls. Following these principles, the pile heats within 24 to 48 hours of construction. Interior temperatures reach 130 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. This heat is not added externally. It is generated by bacterial metabolism, billions of microorganisms consuming organic matter and releasing energy. The heat serves multiple purposes. It accelerates decomposition. Thermophilic bacteria, heat-loving species, work faster than their cool temperature cousins. At 130 degrees, decomposition proceeds at maximum speed. It kills weed seeds. Most weed seeds die at temperatures above 140 degrees maintained for several days. The turning schedule ensures that all material spends time in the hottest zone. It destroys pathogens. Disease organisms that could survive normal composting are killed by the sustained high temperatures. The finished compost is safe to use anywhere in the garden. It eliminates pests. Insect eggs and larvae cannot survive thermophilic temperatures. The compost emerges clean. At day 14, the transformation is complete. What went in as recognizable scraps emerges as dark, crumbly, sweet-smelling humus. The process that takes most gardeners a year takes 2 weeks. The Amish did not learn this from Dr. Rabe. They learned it from their grandparents, who learned it from their grandparents, who brought the knowledge from Germany and Switzerland 300 years ago. The Amish farming system depends on rapid composting. Amish farms do not purchase synthetic fertilizer. Their religious beliefs emphasize self-sufficiency. Everything the farm needs, the farm produces. This creates a fertility challenge. Crops remove nutrients from soil. Animals consume feed that came from soil. Without returning nutrients, soil depletes. The Amish solution is composting at scale. Every Amish farm maintains active compost operations. Animal manure, crop residues, kitchen scraps, and bedding materials flow continuously into composting systems. If composting took 6 to 12 months, the system would require enormous space. Piles would accumulate faster than they finished. The farm would fill with waiting compost. But if composting takes 14 days, the system stays compact. Material comes in, transforms, and goes out to fields before more material accumulates. Rapid composting is not a convenience for the Amish. It is a necessity. Their entire farming model depends on it. The same techniques appear in traditional agriculture worldwide. In China, farmers have practiced hot composting for over 4,000 years. Ancient agricultural texts describe layering materials, maintaining moisture, and turning piles to generate heat. The recommendations match the Berkeley method precisely. In France, the technique is called compostage à chaud, hot composting. French market gardeners used it to produce intensive yields from small plots. The fertility from rapid composting sustained production that amazed observers. In Japan, bokashi composting achieves similar speed through fermentation rather than bacterial decomposition. The principle is the same. Managed decomposition outperforms neglected piles. In India, the indoor method developed by Sir Albert Howard in the 1920s documented the same principles. Proper carbon-nitrogen ratio, adequate moisture, regular turning, finished compost in weeks rather than months. Every agricultural tradition that needed rapid fertility discovered the same solution. The principles are universal. The knowledge is ancient. Only modern gardeners were taught to wait 12 months. The teaching of slow composting serves specific interests. The fertilizer industry does not benefit from gardeners who produce their own fertility. A gardener who composts rapidly needs no fertilizer. They produce soil amendments faster than they can use them. They give surplus to neighbors. They never visit the fertilizer aisle. A gardener who composts slowly still needs fertilizer. Their compost pile takes a year to mature. In the meantime, they buy products. They remain customers. The fertilizer industry did not suppress rapid composting through conspiracy. They simply did not teach it. Extension services, often funded by agricultural industry, taught slow composting as the only method. Publications from fertilizer-adjacent organizations emphasized waiting. The active management required for rapid composting was not mentioned. The composting equipment industry had parallel interests. A gardener who builds a simple pile needs no equipment, a pitchfork for turning, perhaps a hose for watering, no purchase required. The equipment industry sells tumblers, bins, aerators, thermometers, activators, and accessories. They need gardeners to believe that composting requires products. Rapid composting requires no products. It requires knowledge and labor. Neither can be sold. The industry promoted equipment-based composting. Tumblers that produce results in 4 to 6 weeks, still slower than the Berkeley method but faster than neglected piles. Bins that contain materials but do not accelerate decomposition. Activators that provide bacteria already present in any soil. None of this equipment is necessary. All of it costs money. The industry profits from complexity that does not need to exist. The combination of fertilizer industry and equipment industry created a culture of slow, complicated composting. Gardeners believed that rapid composting required special equipment or expertise. They did not attempt the simple methods that actually work. They waited months for results that could come in weeks. The truth is simpler than anyone taught. You can build a Berkeley method pile today, gather your materials. Browns. Carbon-rich materials, dry leaves, straw, cardboard, wood chips, sawdust, dry grass. These provide the energy source for bacteria. Greens. Nitrogen-rich materials, fresh grass clippings, kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, fresh manure, green plant trimmings. These provide protein for bacterial growth. The ratio should be approximately 2 parts browns to 1 part greens by volume. This achieves the 31 carbon-nitrogen ratio that bacteria prefer. Chop materials into small pieces, shred leaves with a mower, cut stalks with pruners, break cardboard into small fragments. Smaller particles decompose faster. Build the pile in layers. Start with a 6-inch layer of browns on the ground. This provides drainage and initial carbon. Add a 3-inch layer of greens. This provides the nitrogen that will fuel bacterial growth. Continue alternating layers until the pile reaches 3 feet high. Finish with a layer of browns to reduce odors and pests. Water each layer as you build. The pile should be moist throughout, like a wrung-out sponge. Dry pockets will not decompose. The pile will heat within 24 to 48 hours. Insert your hand or a compost thermometer. The interior should reach 130 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. If it does not heat, the pile is too dry, too small, or has insufficient nitrogen. Begin the turning schedule on day 4. Use a pitchfork to move the entire pile to an adjacent location. Material from the outside goes to the center. Material from the center goes to the outside. Break up any clumps. Add water if dry areas are found. After turning, the pile should reheat within 24 hours. Temperatures should return to the thermophilic range. Continue turning every second day. Day 4. Turn. Pile should be hot. Day 6. Turn. Pile remains hot. Day 8. Turn. Pile may begin cooling slightly. Day 10. Turn. Pile continues cooling. Day 12. Turn. Pile approaches ambient temperature. Day 14. Turn. Compost should be finished. At day 14, examine the material. Finished compost is dark brown to black. It has an earthy smell, pleasant and forest-like. Original materials are unrecognizable. The texture is crumbly and uniform. If recognizable materials remain, continue turning for another few days. Some piles finish in 14 days, some in 18 or 21. Variables like ambient temperature and material composition affect speed. Use the finished compost immediately or store for later. Unlike immature compost, finished Berkeley method. Compost will not burn plants or rob nitrogen from soil. It can be applied directly to garden beds, mixed into potting soil, or used as top dressing around established plants. The comparison to slow composting is stark. A neglected pile produces compost in 6 to 12 months. The compost is often inconsistent, with undecomposed pockets and partially broken down material. Weed seeds survive. Pathogens may persist. A Berkeley method pile produces compost in 14 to 21 days. The compost is uniform and finished throughout. Weed seeds are killed, pathogens are destroyed. Same materials, same basic process. Radically different results. The only difference is management, turning, moisture, attention. 14 days of attention versus 12 months of waiting. The choice seems obvious once you know both options exist. The Amish understood something we forgot. Farming is partnership. You work with nature, not against it. You manage biological processes rather than replacing them with chemicals. A compost pile is a biological machine. Billions of bacteria working continuously to transform waste into wealth. Managed correctly, the machine runs at full speed. Neglected, it idles. The Amish do not neglect their machines. They do not buy fertility when they can make it. They do not wait months for results that come in weeks. Their farms have operated for 300 years without synthetic inputs. The soil improves each generation rather than depleting. The system sustains itself because it works with biology rather than against it. Modern agriculture chose a different path. It replaced bacterial fertility with synthetic fertilizer. It replaced compost with purchased amendments. It replaced knowledge with products. The choice created dependencies. Farmers who cannot grow without buying. Gardeners who cannot fertilize without stores. A population convinced that fertility comes from factories rather than from life. But the biological machine still exists. The bacteria that powered Amish agriculture still live in every handful of soil. The decomposition processes that transform waste into fertility still operate according to the same principles. The knowledge was never lost. It was simply not taught. Dr. Rabe taught it. The Amish teach it. Ancient Chinese agricultural texts taught it. Now this video teaches it. The pile you build tomorrow can be finished compost in 2 weeks. The waste you throw away today can be feeding your garden this month. The fertility you purchase can be the last bag you ever buy. The fertilizer industry hopes you forget this video. The equipment industry hopes you buy their products instead. The system that profits from your dependency hopes you remain dependent. But a pile of leaves and grass and kitchen scraps does not care about industries. It cares about carbon and nitrogen. It cares about moisture and oxygen. It cares about the billions of bacteria waiting to do their work. Give them what they need, and they will give you what you need in 14 days, every time. The Amish secret that was never secret, the method that was buried by industries that fear it. A pitchfork, a pile, 2 weeks, fertility forever. If this video helped you, subscribe and hit the bell. Every share teaches what they refuse to teach. The next video opens soon.